Okay, welcome to section 7.2, all about fractions, decimals, and percents. Ratios are just another way of comparing two numbers. So really they're just a fraction. They might be written a little differently, like with a colon or with the words, 3, 2, 5, but really they're just fractions. So this whole section's about how interchangeable these numbers are. We could go from fractions to decimals, turn them into percents, and then turn them back into fractions. Okay? Or we could turn a decimal into a fraction, then we could turn the fraction into a percent, and we could turn the percent into a decimal. Okay, so we can go in any direction, change any one of these into any one of the others, and it's a pretty simple process. So the idea is that you're comfortable with all three of these and just understand that they all three represent the same thing. So total we have 6 different conversions here. If you count these arrows, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in no particular order. 6 different ways we can change one of these into another. So I'm going to briefly talk about each one. Okay, we're going to start with percents because they're the easiest. Okay, we start with percents because they're the easiest. They literally mean per 100. It's from the Latin roots and it's similar in Spanish and Italian. So first of all, to turn this into a fraction is incredibly simple. Okay, given some percent, let's say we're given 150%. Okay, that literally means 150 per 100. Okay, all right, done. It is a fraction. Now, of course, anytime we're given a fraction, we need to reduce it all the way. Okay, so if you divide the top and the bottom here by 50, and you could divide it in steps too. You could divide it first by 10 and then by 5. Okay, but this would be equal to 3 over 2. And you could leave it as 3 over 2, or you could write it as 1.5. Okay, but turning a fraction or a percent into a fraction is very straightforward. Okay. Okay, and turning a percent into a decimal is just as easy. Okay, because if we start with something like, let's say, 235%, okay, we're going to say, oh, that means, immediately, right? We're going to say that means 235 per, or divided by, 100. Punch that into a calculator. Yes, you're allowed to use a calculator. You shouldn't need to, right? Dividing by 100 just moves the decimal place twice. But we get 2.35. Okay, and a really important percent to remember. I'm going to write this in big red numbers, is 100% is equal to, right, 100 per 100, or 100 divided by 100 is equal to 1. Okay, and that's an important thing to remember here. So 235% is 2.35, because percent means per 100 or divide by 100. All right. Okay, well the next one we'll talk about are decimals, because decimals are also easy to write in terms of fractions and percents. If you just understand what a decimal is, right? So given some decimal number, okay, and we can make up any old number, let's say 3.456, got a nice counting order there. Okay, the idea is that each one of these places is worth a certain amount, right? The 3 is worth 3 ones, right? $1, $2, $3. Okay. This next one is worth 1/10, or 0.1, right? The next one is worth 1/100th, and the next one is worth 1/1000th, and so on and so forth. So you just keep adding another 0. So 1/10,000th, 1/100,000th, and so on. So if we want to turn this into a fraction, we just simply say, well, this is 3,456. We just take all the numbers without the decimal place and we say it's this many. And then what is the last placeholder we're saying? Okay, this is 3,456 1,000ths. Okay. Now let me give you a simpler example, if that doesn't make enough sense. Okay. Okay, let's start with another example like 2.4. Okay, you could turn this into a fraction two ways: a mixed number or an imperfect fraction. Okay, now either way, what you need to know is that this last placeholder is worth 1/10. Okay, so you could say, oh, well, then we have 2 and 4/10. Okay, or you could say we have 24/10. Okay, both of these things are exactly equivalent, mean the exact same thing. Okay, in my class, I don't necessarily require you always to write the mixed number, which is this top number, because that has its purposes. If you want to graph something, if you want to know a number that it's close to, is it close to 5? Is it close to 500? A mixed number is really helpful. Okay, to graph it, to plot it on a number line, to know the overall value. However, to multiply, divide, add, subtract, reduce, cancel, anything else that you want to do with a fraction, the imperfect fraction is actually more useful. Okay, and that's why we use that one more in math class. It's just when you get an answer, it's helpful to know, yeah, your answer's around 2.5. Okay, your answer's between 2 and 3. That's helpful. Alright, so anyways, either way you write this, if you reduce it, you get the same thing. Okay, you'll reduce the first one and you can get 2 and divide the top and bottom by 2 and you get 2/5. Okay, on the bottom, this 24/10, that's equal to 12/5, which if you write that as a mixed number, you get 2 and 2/5. So either one of these is perfectly okay. Alright, let's do one more example. Okay, given some decimal, it doesn't matter how many decimal places there are, let's say 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, let's not do all that. Okay, so given this number, we just say this as a fraction is 3, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. We add some commas, comma here, so it's 3,765,432 over, and we just say, okay, 1/10, 100th, 1,000th, 10,000th, 100,000, woo, and 1,000,000th. Okay, so this is over a 1 with, and then however many zeros you want to place is how many placeholders there are, because a 10th has 1 0. A 100th has 2 zeros because there are 2 decimal places. So in this case, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers after the decimal. So I'm going to add 6 zeros. Okay, so the number of zeros on the bottom equals the number of decimal places there were up here. 6 decimal places. Okay, there's 6 of these, so there are 6 zeros. And other than that, you just write that whole number on top. 3,765,432 1,000,000ths. Okay, and then you could reduce that. Okay, we're not going to do that. Okay, now if we're still looking at decimals, and this time we want to turn a decimal into a percent. Okay, we're just going to start with any decimal. Okay, let's say 3.21. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, we want this as a percent. We want this as a per 100. So our goal is to get this as something over 100. Okay, well, what we can do is we can just say, well, any number we start with, we could always make that a fraction, right? So we could put this over 1, right? And then we go, okay, well, how could we turn it into over 100? Well, that's easy. We just times by 100 times by 100, and we get 321 over 100. Now, the easier way to think of this, okay, that's really what we're doing, and so this is equal to 321%. Okay, the easier way to think of this is, say we're given some some decimal, 5.46. Okay, well, we go times 100%. Okay, so we haven't changed the number. 100%, 100 per 100. There's just one. Okay, so we go times 100% equals, the percent sign stays there. And then we just do 5.46 times 100, which really, you could use a calculator if you were so inclined, but really it just means move the decimal place twice, and you get 546%. Okay, so to turn a decimal into a percent, you just multiply by 100%. Okay, which ends up being moving the decimal place 2 places and making the number a little bigger. Okay, next, what if you want to turn a fraction that you start with into a decimal or a percent? Okay, first let's turn it into a decimal because that's the easiest. A fraction is set up to just do right away, right? Say you're given a fraction like 4/5. All that line there means, what does this line here mean? It means 4 divided by 5. Okay, well, let's punch that into the calculator. Out comes 0.8. Done. So it tells you what to do. It gives you the instructions. 4/5 says 4 divided by 5, and you get 0.8. Okay, maybe you get a mixed number. That's a little harder. Okay, maybe it's something like 2 and 1/3. Well, you go, okay, that's 2 and then you just do 1 divided by 3, and 1 divided by 3 is 0.33333 repeating, and so you get it as 2.3333 repeating, right? So it's set up for you. That division bar right here means divide, right? That's what this means, divide. Alright, and then if we want to turn a fraction to a percent, that's our last one. That's the most interesting because we've got 2 ways to do it. Okay, so now let's look at the last one. If you want to turn a fraction into a percent, you really got 2 ways to do it. Okay, you got the clever way, which I think is a little more fun, or you've got just, kind of do a calculator method. Alright, so the first method, let's look at it. Say you've got something like 3/5. And you go, okay, well, what does percent mean? It means per 100. So how could we get this to be per 100? And you could say, hey, if we multiply the bottom by 20 and the top by 20, we know that 5 times 20 on the bottom is 100. And on top, 3 times 20 is 60. So this is 60%. Okay, 60 out of 100 is 60%. So that's the most clever way, right? Now, the longer way is you simply just go fraction to decimal, and then you turn that into a percent, right? And so, for example, let's take something like 7/10, which you could just multiply top and bottom by 10 and get that 70 over 100, or 70%. Okay, but no, we didn't notice that. Okay, that's totally okay. All right, so this means divide, and so we go, 7 divided by 10. Plug it into our calculator, we get 0.7. Okay, 0.7. Then if we want to turn that into a percent, we go times 100%. Okay, and that's equal to 70%. Done. Okay, so we got either method. I like this top method, where you make it per 100, per cien, por cien, right? That's great. On the bottom, you just do what it says. It says 7 over 10 instead of divided by 10. You do it. 0.7 times 100%. Now it's a percent. Okay. All right. Wish you luck. We'll just practice these 6 methods. I'll give you a percent, ask for a fraction. I'll give you a fraction, ask for a decimal, and so on and so forth.